welcome to Pricing College with your hosts, Joanna Wells
and Aidan Campbell.
Okay, so we've been talking in the past few episodes about tenders, and generally speaking, I think you can get the picture here that tenders, can be quite a negative and painful process. So we did touch on the idea of what can we do differently to make tenders better. And what we're going to debate today is whether companies should just say no to tenders. Is that the best solution?
Clearly this would take a very brave company. It would take a company very confident in the value they provide. They'd have to be aware that they're either super sharp pricing or really a differentiated product or service, more reliability, etc., versus competitors. And this could be for new business or it could be for existing, B2B style business also. Would you have the guts, and is your company set up to just say, we don't have a tender department, we do not do tenders?
When you think about a tender, really, and you're a company that is agreeing to go through the tender process, another person's tender process, really what you're agreeing to is you're becoming beta to their alpha. It's their process. They initially came to you because you have the solution to their problems, yet you're the beta in this relationship. It's completely dysfunctional. If you truly are and do have that solution, you should be driving the whole process.
It is. If you think in any walk of life, if you want to buy a product or service that you really like, what you do is you go out, you do the legwork, you research it, you spend a bit of time, and you find the one that you want and the one that suits you. And this applies to anything from buying a car to buying a house to buying a puppy dog, a pet for your kids. Whatever you're going through, you do the research, you find out the one that suits you, and you make that specific choice. And the person you buy it from, or the supplier that you buy it from, will be confident, will be you want them to be confident in what they're offering. You don't want them to be desperate to, super keen and super desperate to get the sale in, because otherwise there'd be suspicions in your mind. You'd be like, what's going on here? Why is this person, are they selling me an inferior product? And you think, why will that not also apply in many regards to a B2B environment? Obviously, we're not foolish. We know in a lot of scenarios that is the way industries are run and that's how they operate. But, if you even just take a bit of what we're saying here on board, you can hopefully minimize that aspect.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the idea of reframing a dysfunctional and largely unhelpful process so that both the seller and the procurer get a better outcome. I think that is essential. This is what we're actually trying to say. And so, what can you do? So if somebody comes to you with a tender, you read through that tender, often it's nonsensical. You really don't have an idea of what they're trying to buy, their business, their agenda, their strategy, things like that, their financials. How can you truly help them? At that point, disrupting that dysfunctional sort of process is advisable, because by saying no, that'll come as a shock to them. They'll not have really heard that before, because most people just jump to and just provide a generic response to a generic, RFQ. But you're going to be doing something different. And the reason you're going to be doing that is because you actually care. You care about delivering the outcomes, good outcomes for your potential client or customer. And you also want to understand whether you actually can serve them well. Why would you agree to a job or, with a customer if you can't deliver? At that point, you would recommend and maybe come up with a solution, another partnership or whatever. But what you're trying to do is understand their problem. And by saying no to the tender process, it's a real sign that you actually care.
When we say no to a tender, we're by no means saying do not discuss, do not provide communication, do not talk about pricing, do not cover every topic under the sun. What we're really saying is do it better. Do it. What you want to do is have that chat with the customer, with the potential customer. Really talk through what you have. You're not give them cookie cutter style information that to some extent is useless. Really give them the information that they need. If it's an existing customer, there's also in any negotiation there has to be a pro and a con. If there's that old saying, if there's no cost to doing something, people people won't, or there's no, I suppose, cost, people won't avoid doing something. So in theory, when a customer, if you've had a customer for 10 years, say in a B2B environment, and they are saying, oh, we're just going to go to tender, I think any supplier would be, oh, fine, that's perfectly fine. There's no actual penalty on that supplier or that customer in doing that. Instead, if you say, well, we don't actually do tenders, so we won't be taking part in that tender process, that really, in the customer's mind, then are they going to really rip up that 10 years of relationship just on a whim, or are they going to actually discuss with you and have that discussion and be adults about the situation? I would suspect they will be adults at the end of the day.
And for instance, if you then did say, look, I'm not going to take part in that process because we've got another way of doing it that will ensure that we both know where we are with that situation, and we're very clear that we can serve you at the level that you want and give you the prices that you want. Would you like to choose that as an alternative to this process because we know it works? If they say no, aren't they really sort of like destroying not only their value, but sort of biting themselves in the foot a little bit here? And also you get an insight into what they would be like if you actually work with them over a longer time. They're going to just say, no, you've got to do it this way, even though you've got a better way of doing it, and you can show them that'll get them better results. And then they say no to it, then I think you've got an insight there about whether you want to work with them. And that's a point, and then you can go back to management and go, maybe this isn't the type of customer that we can deal with, and may have a higher cost to serve, maybe quite difficult to give them what they actually want. And at that point, you move on. It's called segmentation. You want to really work with people that you can work with. At that point, you'll be really able to give them especially if it's a sophisticated solution that does require more than just, transactional buy sell. You really do need to have that relationship.
I worked in a B2B industrial business previously, and one of the things that really I noticed was they would do tenders for anybody. They do tenders for a 50,000 deal, they do tenders for a $2 million deal, they do tenders for a $50 million deal. At what point in time are we segmenting the market? At what point in time are we thinking this really isn't a customer for us, or what this customer is looking for is not something that really we want to be in? It was almost like a one size fits all environment whereby we were putting the same effort into the tender, which was a lot of effort but not much thought to a large extent. The company wasn't thinking, it wasn't differentiating, it wasn't really thinking what this customer wants, because so much time and effort was actually involved in putting together documents. It was you're almost kidding yourself. That's staying busy but not being productive. What is more productive? Increasing value in your company and marketing that value to the market so that they will come looking to you, or by being reactive and just answering questions when a tender gets sent out to 10 potential suppliers and you've no ability to differentiate yourself. Always being differentiated, it's always beneficial. At least people will know who you are. Obviously, you want to differentiate yourself in a positive light. But my personal view is, in many regards, if you can say no to tenders, I think you should really consider it, at least for certain segments of your market. Of course, we are always aware, we're not foolish either, that there is certain markets where tendering is required, such as in government mandated areas, or where this legislation requires. But if you can reduce tendering whenever possible, I think you really should.
Yeah, agreed. So I think what I've learned from all of this is saying no doesn't mean, having an antagonistic relationship with your customers straight off. No, it means the reverse. Actually, it means that you do care, that you want to learn more about their problems, you want to actually help them achieve their outcomes, and you want to make sure that you can deliver on what you're saying. You want to make sure that you can serve them as best you can. And from the customer, it's actually, a good time if you say, no, let's do it this way, it's better. And listening to the feedback from your customers and hearing what they would say in response to that will really give you insight into long-term sort of relationship and business deals that you're going to have post that point in time, especially if it's a new customer. And if it's an older existing customer, I think they'll be quite happy to go through that process, especially if you've done the hard work and you've delivered on your promises in the past. And why wouldn't they?
I think this is all predicated on you being a really great company, you providing your company providing great service, great pricing, you know, to the customer. At the end of the day, if you are a trusted supplier, if you've been given great service, they're more than likely to listen to you. People don't want to get rid of what they're used to that works really well for them. If you're a shoddy, below par supplier, this technique or this approach, literally will destroy your business. You really have no room to be using this. But this is when you know your value, when you really are capable, and when you're competent. If you know your own value, the customer should also know it. How would a customer know your value if you underappreciate yourself also? It is, as Joanna started the conversation, who's better and alpha in the relationship. If you are if you doubt yourself and just think you're the lowest cost provider, that is inevitably where you will end up.
And this requires a lot of backing from, stakeholders in the business, executives in the business. You can't do this, as a solo player. It just won't work. You'll be considered like a lone wolf, unpredictable, and all those things, which you're not. You're actually doing great account management. But it needs to be a strategy. It needs to be agreed upon, and it can only work. And you do need, if you have data, you've got insights that you use to improve your account management and pricing capability. But you've got to learn and trust that as well. And that is taking time in many businesses. It's like, how do we use this data? A lot of CRMs are still really not filled in, not very helpful. So look, it's a work in progress. I take that, but if people are coming to you and consistently that the business delivers on what it promises, then maybe it's a strategy that suits you.
Yeah, that's all from me really on tenders. I think we've talked a lot about tenders this week. So yeah, we look forward to another topic next week. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.